What if a man's DNA revealed he was not fully human? What if it matched something thought to be only legend, a creature buried in myth and bone for millions of years? This is the story of a ranger struck by lightning, whose blood carried the secrets of dragons, and the scientists who uncovered a truth too dangerous to remain hidden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us in the comments where are you watching from. Now let's jump into the story. The rain hammered against the glass windows of the Pacific Genetics Institute in Oregon. The night was heavy with thunder, and every strike of lightning lit the lab in a sharp white glow. Dr. Claire Morris sat hunched over her microscope, her back stiff from long hours of work. Her eyes burned, but she could not look away from the strange DNA sample before her. It belonged to a man who should not exist, and yet he was alive, breathing, and waiting for answers just down the hall. Claire rubbed her forehead and whispered to herself, 30 tests, 30 failures. The sequences she had run did not match anything in the global databases. No human, no primate, no mammal of any kind. The DNA strands looked familiar in structure, but at the same time, they twisted into patterns she had never seen. It was as if the code belonged to a species never catalogued on Earth. Her colleague, Dr. Samuel Hart, leaned casually in the doorway with a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. "Still nothing?" he asked, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of curiosity. Claire sat back, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Not a single match. It doesn't fit into any branch of life as we know it. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with pieces from another box." Samuel raised an eyebrow. Or maybe another world. He half smiled, though his eyes showed he was unsettled. The man they were studying was Lucas Hale, a 28-year-old park ranger who had been found unconscious after a lightning storm in the Cascades. When he was first brought to the hospital, his blood work had caused so many errors that the lab machines had to be recalibrated twice. The hospital had quickly sent the samples to Claire's team. What they discovered only deepened the mystery. "Have you told him anything yet?" Samuel asked, setting his coffee down on a counter. Claire shook her head. "What do you suggest I say? You're a biological impossibility?" "No, not until I know more." Samuel nodded. "Fair enough." He pulled a stool beside her and leaned in to look at the microscope. "Any new symptoms?" Claire tapped her tablet, bringing up Lucas's medical chart. "His temperature is still running high, but he says he feels fine. His healing rate is 3 times faster than the average baseline. Look at this." She swiped to a scan image. "His metabolism is burning energy like a rocket engine, but he isn't weak. If anything, he's stronger." Samuel frowned. "Maybe too strong." The lab door slid open, and Lucas Hale himself stepped inside. Tall and lean, with sharp features and eyes the color of molten gold, he carried himself with quiet control. Those unusual eyes were the first thing Claire had noticed when they met. No human eyes glowed like that, catching the light with an almost metallic sheen. "I hope I'm not intruding," Lucas said. His voice was calm, carefully measured. Claire quickly closed the tablet. "Not at all. How are you feeling today?" "Like a specimen in a glass cage," he replied with a faint smile, though it did not reach his eyes. "But you've treated me kindly enough." Samuel chuckled. "You've been remarkably patient, Mr. Hale." "Lucas, please," he corrected softly. He moved with a fluid grace, a motion too precise to ignore. 3 days ago, I was just a ranger walking trails. Now, I'm apparently something else. I'd like to know what." Claire studied him as he rolled up his sleeve, allowing her to draw another sample. Under the bright light, subtle details became clear. The faint pattern of ridges appeared on his skin when his body temperature rose. His pupils, though round in dim light, narrowed to slits when the overhead lamp hit his face. "Does it bother you?" Claire asked as she swabbed his arm. "What? The tests? The needles?" "No," she said gently. "Knowing you're different." A flicker of surprise crossed his face. "My mother used to call it a gift. My father called it a curse. I just lived with it. Small towns notice things, but I learned to hide." She inserted the needle, drawing blood that looked too vibrant, almost glowing in the vial. "Were your parents like you?" "My mother, yes. My father was ordinary." His jaw tightened. "They died when I was 16. Since then, I've been alone." "I'm sorry," Claire said softly. Lucas gave a slight nod, pulling down his sleeve. "So, doctor, do you have any answers yet? Am I human?" There was a tremor in his voice, almost fear. Before Claire could respond, her tablet vibrated with an incoming call. She glanced at the screen. It was Dr. Amara Soto, a paleogeneticist she trusted deeply. Claire answered quickly. "Please tell me you have something," Claire said. "I do," Amara replied, her voice sharp with excitement. "But you need to come to the Ancient Genomics Division right now. And Claire, bring your subject with you." This is something he must see for himself. Claire exchanged a look with Samuel, then with Lucas, who stood silently, golden eyes steady but searching. The storm outside cracked with another strike of lightning, as if the night itself echoed the weight of the words. Something about this discovery felt larger than any one person, larger even than science itself. Claire rose to her feet, heart racing. "Come on," she said. "It's time for answers." Lucas followed, silent but alert. As they stepped out of the lab and into the darkened corridor, behind them, the microscope still glowed faintly under the storm's light. But the mystery was far from solved. This was only the beginning. The storm outside had not slowed when Claire, Samuel, and Lucas crossed the long corridors of the Institute. The Ancient Genomics Division was hidden in the eastern wing, a place few researchers were allowed to enter. Security doors scanned their badges, and heavy locks opened with mechanical clicks. The air inside was cooler, filled with the hum of machines and the faint scent of sterile chemicals. Lucas walked between them in silence, his golden eyes shifting across the bright halls. Every movement of his carried a quiet intensity, as though he sensed things before they happened. Claire noticed it again, the subtle grace in his steps, almost like an instinct sharpened over centuries. Samuel tried to ease the tension with a small smile. "Not many people come here. This is where they keep the most delicate work. Fossils, ancient remains, DNA so old it barely survives." Lucas tilted his head, curiosity flashing in his gaze. "Why bring me here?" Claire shook her head. "I don't know yet, but Dr. Amara Soto said she had an answer." They reached a wide steel door at the end of the corridor. It opened into a spacious laboratory lined with glowing screens and containment units. Inside, Dr. Amara Soto stood waiting. She was short, with sharp eyes behind thin glasses, her dark hair tied back tightly. She looked up from the monitors and gave Claire a knowing smile. "Good," Amara said. "You brought him." Lucas inclined his head politely. "I take it you are the one who has been studying my blood." Amara nodded. "And your DNA is unlike anything I have ever seen." She gestured to the large display behind her. "Come closer. There's something you all need to witness." On the left side of the screen glowed the complex spiral of Lucas's DNA sequence. In the middle was the human genome for comparison, familiar and mapped. But on the right side appeared another structure, jagged and ancient, taken from a fossil bone. "What is that?" Claire asked, moving closer. Amara's eyes gleamed with excitement. "This is genetic material recovered from a fossil we discovered in Central Asia. It was buried deep in the desert, preserved against time. The skeleton was unlike anything we had ever seen. The locals called it the dragon bone. Samuel frowned, skeptical. Surely it was a misclassified dinosaur. That's what we thought, Amara replied, her tone steady. But the bone density, the skull fragments, the shape of the chest cavity, none of it matched dinosaurs. The creature had a brain size far beyond its kind, and its bone structure suggested something different, something advanced. We stored it as specimen D9, until now. She tapped a few keys, ... and the 3 genetic sequences aligned side by side. The screen lit up with highlighted sections. Lucas Hale shares 47% DNA similarity with this fossil, Amara explained. To put that in perspective, humans share only about 40% with chimpanzees. This is beyond coincidence. This is genetic relation. The room fell silent. Claire felt her pulse race, the weight of the discovery pressing against her chest. Lucas's face was unreadable, his golden eyes fixed on the screens. Finally, he spoke in a low voice. "You're saying my blood carries the code of something that lived millions of years ago?" Amara's voice softened. "Not just something, Lucas. Something extraordinary. Something humans have only spoken of in myths and legends. Dragons." Samuel scoffed, shaking his head. "Dragons are stories, tales from fire and imagination." Amara held his gaze firmly. Every legend has a root. Flood stories, monster tales, they all... What if dragon myths came from real encounters with the last of these creatures? Claire felt a chill ripple through her. She looked at Lucas. Your healing, your metabolism, your eyes. They're adaptations, signs of survival. Lucas stepped back, shaking his head. This isn't possible. DNA doesn't last for millions of years, and no human could carry this much of it. Unless, Amara said, lowering her voice, unless the species survived longer than we thought. Unless they crossed paths with humans. The thought hung heavy in the air. Before anyone could respond, a sudden alarm rang out. Red lights flashed along the walls, and a sharp voice echoed through the speakers. "Attention all personnel! Security breach detected. Secure all sensitive materials and proceed to safe rooms. This is not a drill." Samuel froze. What now? Amara rushed to her computer, her fingers flying across the keys. Someone is hacking the system. The lockdown protocols are starting. Claire turned to Lucas, who stood tense, his jaw set. His eyes narrowed, pupils shifting into vertical slits. "They're not here for the building," he said quietly. "They're here for me, and for that fossil." Claire stared at him, stunned. "How could you possibly know that?" Lucas's voice was steady, almost chilling. "Because I can smell them. The same men who were watching me in the forest. The ones who wanted me brought here. They've been following me for months." A sharp crash echoed from somewhere down the hall. Shouts followed, then the heavy pounding of boots against metal floors. Samuel's face went pale. "They're coming this way." Lucas moved toward the reinforced glass case that held the fossil bone. "We don't have long." Amara looked at him in disbelief. "What are you planning?" He glanced at Claire, and in that moment, she saw something raw in his eyes. Fear, strength, and a strange acceptance. "If you want to live," he said quietly, "you'll follow me." The shouts grew louder, the sound of breaking glass carrying through the lab. Claire's heart pounded, but she knew he was right. This discovery had already drawn danger. The fossil connection was no longer just science. It was survival. The alarm continued to echo through the ancient genomics division, red lights pulsing across the sterile walls. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. closer with every second. Claire, Samuel, and Amara exchanged a look of fear, but Lucas was calm, his golden eyes sharp and unblinking. Lucas scanned the ceiling and spotted a wide ventilation grate. With surprising speed, he reached up, tore the cover free, and lowered it to the ground. The metal clattered softly, drowned out by the distant crash of another door being forced open. "This is our way out," Lucas said. His voice was low, but certain. Samuel stared at him. "That vent won't lead us anywhere safe." Lucas shook his head. "It leads to the sublevels. If we keep moving, we can reach the parking garage." Claire hesitated, torn between fear and trust. Then another crash echoed through the corridor, and she knew they had no choice. "Help me with the fossil," she said firmly. Lucas moved to the containment unit, lifting the heavy protective case with ease. Amara climbed first into the vent, her small frame disappearing quickly. Samuel followed, then Claire with the fossil secured in her hands. Lucas boosted her up, then swung himself inside, just as the laboratory door burst open. Masked men in dark tactical gear stormed into the lab, weapons raised. From her place in the vent, Claire froze, staring down in shock. The men barked orders, but before they could move further, Lucas dropped back down into the room. He moved with speed no human could match. A blur of motion, a flash of strength. Within seconds, the three men lay unconscious on the floor. Lucas looked up at Claire, his chest rising and falling with quiet control. His eyes glowed with that strange inner fire. "Go," he said urgently. "There will be more." Claire pulled herself forward through the narrow shaft, the fossil heavy in her arms. The others crawled ahead, the sound of boots clanging against the ducts. Behind them, Lucas followed, his body moving with uncanny balance even in the cramped space. The shaft opened into a vertical drop, leading to another corridor below. Samuel forced the grate loose and lowered himself carefully. Amara followed, then Claire, lowering the fossil with Samuel's help. Finally, Lucas dropped down last, landing with the silence of a predator. The corridor was dim, lit only by emergency lights. They ran, their footsteps echoing as alarms continued to blare above. "Who are these people?" Claire whispered, struggling to keep pace. Lucas's jaw tightened. "Not government. At least, not officially. I've seen them before, watching me from the forest, waiting. They knew this day would come." Samuel frowned. "What do they want?" Lucas glanced at the fossil in Claire's arms. "That, and me." They reached the stairwell that led to the underground garage. But as they pushed through the door, headlights cut through the gloom. 3 black vehicles screeched around the corner, blocking their path. The sound of tires echoed off the concrete walls. Armed men poured out of the vehicles, surrounding them. Claire's pulse quickened as she clutched the fossil case tighter. From the lead SUV, a tall figure stepped out slowly, unhurried, as though he had all the time in the world. He was older, with silver hair and a neatly trimmed beard. His eyes gleamed gold, the same unusual shade as Lucas's. "Mr. Hale," the man said, his voice deep and controlled. "I've been waiting for this moment." Lucas stepped forward, putting himself between the stranger and TH. "Who are you?" The man smiled faintly. "My name is Gabriel Stone, and like you, I carry the blood of an old lineage." He gestured toward Lucas's eyes, "a lineage humanity buried under myth." Amara whispered, "You're saying he's like you?" Gabriel's smile widened. "Not just like me, like all of us who remain. We are the descendants of the true rulers of this world. Creatures your kind called dragons." Claire felt her breath catch in her throat. Gabriel turned his gaze to the case in Claire's arms. "I see you found our heritage. Good. It will save time." Lucas's voice hardened. "What do you want?" Gabriel took a step closer, unafraid of the armed men around him. What is ours? Our kind once commanded the skies and the earth. Then fate, in the form of fire from the heavens, stole it away. Now mankind rules the world, but it is temporary. With the DNA in that fossil, and in your blood, we can awaken what lies dormant. We can rise again. Samuel shook his head, sectionoid, his voice trembling with disbelief. That's madness. Gabriel's eyes narrowed. Is it madness to reclaim what was stolen? Your people built myths of monsters because they feared us. They painted us as demons, while they destroyed what they did not understand. Claire clutched the fossil tighter. You would bring back extinction. Dominance without balance is not survival. It is destruction. Gabriel looked at Lucas, ignoring the others. You felt it, haven't you? The strength, the senses, the fire that runs in your veins. You don't belong with them. You belong with us. Join me, Lucas. Help us reclaim our birthright. Lucas stood frozen, the storm outside rattling the building, the red emergency lights casting strange shadows. He could feel Claire's eyes on him, waiting, hoping. He drew in a slow breath, his voice low. I'm not your soldier, and I'm not your weapon. Gabriel's smile faded, replaced by cold steel. He gestured, and the men raised their weapons. The standoff had begun. And deep inside, Claire knew the next moments would decide not just their lives, but the future of what Lucas truly was. The underground garage was filled with silence, broken only by the low hum of the vehicles and the distant wail of alarms. Red emergency lights flickered across the concrete walls, casting shadows that seemed alive. Claire's hands trembled as she clutched the fossil case close to her chest. Samuel and Amara stood behind her, both frozen between fear and disbelief. And in the center of it all, Lucas faced Gabriel Stone, the man who claimed to share his bloodline. Gabriel's soldiers kept their weapons trained, their dark masks hiding any trace of humanity. The older man, however, showed no fear. His golden eyes gleamed as he studied Lucas, as if he were both proud and expectant. You feel it, don't you? Gabriel said, his tone calm but commanding. The strength in your veins, the fire in your lungs. You have lived as a man, but you were never truly one of them. You were meant for more, meant to reclaim what belongs to us. Lucas clenched his fists, his body tense. What you call reclaiming, I call destruction. You would tear the world apart for power. Gabriel tilted his head. Power is survival. For millions of years, our kind thrived. Then fate struck us down. Humans rose in our absence, building cities on our bones, turning our image into monsters in their stories. Now, with science and the DNA of this fossil, we can return. We can awaken the thousands who carry the dormant markers in their blood. Amara whispered, horror in her voice. You mean to transform people into hybrids? Gabriel smiled faintly. Not transform. Awaken. Their true selves have slept long enough. With Lucas's pure DNA and the fossil sequence, we can create an army strong enough to take back the world. Claire stepped forward, her voice steady, though her heart pounded. You speak of justice, but what you plan is not justice. It's conquest. Balance is what keeps species alive. Wipe that balance away, and you repeat the same mistakes that ended your kind once before. Gabriel's eyes softened for a moment as he looked at her. You are brave, Doctor, but bravery without understanding is wasted. Mankind fears what it cannot control. Your species has always feared us. We will never be safe until we rule again. Lucas stared at the fossil case in Claire's arms, the weight of choice pressing on him. He could feel the strange energy in his body, the fire Gabriel spoke of. It was true, he was not like other men. But he also knew what humanity meant. He had lived among them, laughed with them, grieved with them. His heart belonged to the human world, no matter his blood. "You think I belong to you?" Lucas said quietly. "But you're wrong. I belong to the life I've built, to the people I protect. I won't help you." Gabriel's expression hardened. He raised his hand, and the soldiers tightened their aim. Samuel's voice cracked. "Lucas, what do we do?" Lucas turned his head slightly, his golden eyes burning with determination. "We survive." The next moment was chaos. The soldiers opened fire, but Lucas moved faster than human sight. His body blurred through the dim garage, striking with precision and speed. Weapons clattered to the ground as men fell unconscious, disarmed before they could react. Claire and Amara ducked behind a pillar, shielding the fossil case, while Samuel dragged them further from the gunfire. Gabriel watched calmly, even as his soldiers dropped one by one. There was no fear in his eyes, only cold interest. "Remarkable," he murmured. "You are stronger than I imagined." Lucas faced him, chest heaving, but gaze steady. "This ends tonight." Gabriel took a step forward. "Kill me if you wish, but you cannot kill what you are. Sooner or later you will realize the truth. Your blood does not lie." Lucas hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing on him. But then he shook his head. "I am not your weapon. I am not your heir. I am something new." He lunged forward, disarming Gabriel with a single swift motion. The older man stumbled back, his golden eyes narrowing in fury. Before he could rise again, Lucas spoke with quiet finality. "I will not destroy you, but I will not let you destroy this world either." He turned to Claire and took the fossil case from her hands. Without another word, he smashed the electronic locks on a nearby maintenance door. Alarms wailed louder as heavy security gates began to close across the garage. "We need to go," Lucas said, his voice urgent. "Now." Together, they slipped through the maintenance door just as the gates sealed shut, cutting off Gabriel and his surviving men. Claire looked back once, seeing Gabriel's golden eyes glowing in the red light. He stood unmoving, a shadow against the chaos, his gaze locked on Lucas with cold promise. The group hurried down a narrow stairwell that led outside. The storm had not stopped. Rain poured in sheets, lightning crackling across the night sky. Lucas stood for a moment in the open, the fossil case heavy in his grip. Claire's voice trembled. "What will you do now?" Lucas looked at her, then at the storm. "I'll protect this. I'll keep it hidden, far from those who would use it. And I'll protect you, all of you, because whatever my blood says, I choose who I am." Amara placed a hand on Claire's shoulder, whispering, "He's right. He's not just man or myth, he's something more." Lucas turned toward the dark road ahead. Lightning lit his eyes, burning gold against the rain. "I'm not human. I'm not dragon. I'm the bridge between, and as long as I stand, no one will claim this world in fire." With that, he walked into the storm, the fossil hidden in his hands, his future uncertain but his choice clear. For Claire, Samuel, and Amara, one truth echoed louder than the thunder. The world was no longer what they thought it was. And Lucas Hale had become proof that the greatest mysteries are not myths at all, but living revelations waiting to be found.